And with no further ado, Mr. Manharis.
Well, hello, everyone. Sorry for that little technical glitch there. Welcome to the second in a series of educational events planned by the Eastlake Educational Foundation. Today's session is entitled Cybersecurity, Keeping Our Kids Safe Online. We thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Michael Manharis. As a kid who grew up in Chula Vista and attended local schools, I am proud to work for the Chula Vista Elementary School District and serve on the Eastlake Educational Foundation Board of Directors. For more than 25 years, the Eastlake Educational Foundation has provided much needed resources and support to our local schools. The foundation believes that children with equal access to technology today will unleash the genius and innovation the world needs tomorrow. Now, with the Chula Vista Elementary School District having recently opened the 2020-21 school year in a distance learning format, our children are online more than ever. Young students are regularly on electronic calls with their teachers and classmates. They are accessing educational activities online, and some are even posting schoolwork and assignments using a variety of online platforms. Add on time for playing games and maybe some social media apps, and it gets difficult to manage our children's online activities. That's what makes tonight's forum so critical for students and families alike. Tonight, our goal is to provide information about specific ways to keep kids safe online. Now, for Spanish translation, guests who would like to listen to this evening's forum in Spanish, there is a separate Zoom link that you can jump on. I'm sure many of you are taking advantage of that. We are grateful for the support of Cox Communications, our generous sponsor of tonight's forum. Cox has done so much for our community and has stepped up even more during the COVID-19 crisis, helping to ensure that all kids have access to the internet through the Connect to Compete program. Now, I'd like to introduce the moderator for tonight's forum. With more than 20 years of experience in the telecommunications industry, Adriana Mendoza is a government affairs manager for Cox Communications in San Diego. She is a mentor to young Latinas through Mana de San Diego, PICS, Partners in College Success, and serves on the board of directors for Computers to Kids San Diego. Adriana manages Cox Tech Centers located at community centers and boys and girls clubs in underserved communities, and has been instrumental to the Cox Connect to Compete program to bring computers and internet access to K-12 students to help bridge the digital divide. Adriana is an advisory board member for Cox Charities, the company's employee-led foundation. She also serves on the Cox Diversity and Inclusion Council for California and is a co-lead for Cox's California Latino Employee Resource Group. Mendoza, who grew up in San Diego and married her childhood sweetheart, lives in San Diego and has a 28-year-old son. She also has a pit bull named Poppy. Now it's my pleasure to turn over hosting duties for this forum to our moderator, Adriana Mendoza.
Thank you, Michael. I'm very excited to be here. Cox is so proud to support our community. And just like you mentioned about Connect Compete, I'd like to share that since March, we've connected a little over 38,000 low-income families to our Connect Compete program with up to 4 months of free internet service through Connect Compete, which is only $9.95 after the initial offer expires. And currently, for any new participants that enroll through September 30th, they will get the first 2 months for free. So, if you qualify for the program, definitely visit our website and you can get more information. But for now, I'm happy to introduce our very first guest. Danny Casawang is currently the Director of Information Technology Services and Support for the Chula Vista Elementary School District. Before joining the Chula Vista Elementary School District, Danny managed information technology for large school campuses at the Diocese of San Jose in Silicon Valley and the Diocese in San Diego. Danny has a BA in Interdisciplinary Studies from UC Berkeley and completed Harvard's JFK School of Governance, Cybersecurity, Mitigation and Management program with honors. Danny also holds a school management and leadership certification from Harvard Business School. Danny enjoys reading scripture, cooking, and teaching his 2 daughters Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, when he's not busy swimming. He also loves to train dogs and teaches their owners on how to become even more effective athletes. Welcome, Danny. Thank you for being here. What an impressive bio. But let's jump right in and I will ask you a few very important questions. What should parents be looking for during their school day to ensure that their children are safe while online?
Thank you for your intro, Adriana. And the first thing that parents need to look at is to set aside some time to discuss, guidelines with their students. And then, of course, spot red flags if there's anything going on while they're online, but also encourage that they communicate with them. Most important is to periodically check while they're online, engage in class or doing work. And another most important aspect is to have the computer in an open area, okay, so that the parent can walk by, look at what they're doing, and review what's going on. When it comes to games, apps, or social media sites, pay particular attention to the apps. Make sure that those apps, especially the ones that have end-to-end encryption or direct messaging or video chats, uploading files, or even hiding their profiles, anonymity, how to be secretive, things that they are hiding and things like that. Make sure you look out for those. And in some instances with devices, make sure you're able to adjust those privacy settings and those parent controls when it comes to especially online games and apps. Also, make sure to tell your student not to share any personal information, any photos, any videos online in any public forums, especially with people they don't know in real life. Let them know that images they post online, things they say, is permanently on the internet. Another very important, especially this day and age, is teach children about body safety and boundaries. Let them know that it's the importance of saying no to inappropriate requests, both in the physical world as well as the virtual world. And most important, encourage them not to engage in any inappropriate behavior online.
Wow, those are really great tips, Danny. I think for a lot of parents, especially now that their kids are doing virtual learning, these are things that they never had to give much thought to. So thank you for that. On to the next question. How do we protect students from cyberbullying, like private messages in the chat feature? What should parents be looking out for that might be considered risky behavior by their children while they're online?
The most important is first the child's any behaviors. When they want to conceal their online activity, they don't want to talk about what they're doing online. If they're withdrawn, if there's any angry outbursts, even anxiety and depression, the first step would be to offer comfort and support. Talk about how you grew up, if there was any bullying experiences in your childhood that might make the child feel less alone. Let your student know that it's not his or her fault, that bullying is more about the bully than them. Praise your student for reporting about it, for letting you know, and keep reminding them that they're not alone. I mean, that's so important. And then the other thing is make sure that you reassure your student, your child, that you're going to figure this out together. The next step would be to let the school know, the principal, the school nurse, counselor, teacher, about the situation. And many school districts have protocols for responding to cyberbullying. These vary by district and state. But before you report the problem, let your student know that you're going to work out a plan that makes them feel comfortable and you feel comfortable. Last but not least, make sure they don't respond to the cyberbullying, because it just fuels the fire, right? Do make sure to keep copies of those messages, pictures, texts, anything that could be used evidence for the bully's parents, the school, or even when it comes down to it, the police. So make sure to take screenshots using a phone. The last measures for this bullying is of course, a lot of the programs have ways of blocking emails, instant messages, text on these devices. So look into that. Also have a schedule for after school with your students that they have limited access to technology, that it's not always on 24/7. And of course, as just to remind you, make sure that it's in a public area, in your home or wherever they reside. And my last advice on this one is know your students' online world, especially when it comes to social media sites. Make sure that you are following them, you're a friend of them. Of course, don't abuse the privilege by commenting or posting anything on your child's profile, but check those profiles frequently. It's very, very important. It's just the same thing as walking by, looking over their shoulder and see what they're working on. And last but not least, encourage them not to share any personal information online.
Again, great information. I think that, we forget that cyberbullying is real, just like it is in person. So definitely good information that you shared for our families. And you mentioned social media. With that, it brings me to my next question. What is an appropriate age for a child to have social media, to be on social media?
Adriana, this is a very, very good question. And I'm just going to share some information first before I get to the right age. Rates of adolescent depression and suicide are on the rise. Many parents and psychologists link this trend to the prevalence of smartphones and social media. Now, according to a recent report by Influence Central, the average child gets their first smartphone at around 10 years old. They open their first social media accounts by the time they're around 11, 12. And around 12 years old, 50% of kids use at least one social media platform. To sign up, most lie about their age. That's because popular sites like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, they all set that age at 13 years old, just to be in compliance with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And to answer your question, the minimum age really depends on your child's level of maturity. Adolescents' brains are wired to be impulsive. Their prefrontal cortex, which is part of the brain that's responsible for managing their impulses, it's not developed till they're about early 20s for females and late 20s for males. So I suggest 16 due to security risks, anonymity, geotagging issues, which they want to know where your locations are, and last but not least, damaging graphic and adult content. As parents, I'm a father of two young girls as well. We need to help our children understand that their identity and sense of worth is not determined by a number of likes, comments, shares, or how many people follow them. So.
Yeah, that's really great information, and I think you're right. Every child matures differently, so I agree with you. I can agree more. Danny, how is the district protecting all the data that is coming in regarding student participation in online learning? That's the last question, but I know it's the parents are concerned with what information is being shared or how it's being stored.
Sure. So Chula Elementary School District, we work really hard to review our platforms. And two things that are very, very important is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, also known as FERPA, and COPA, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, COPPA. So the district decided to use Microsoft Teams due to its encryption, just to protect it from end to end, and strong identity authentication so that no one can take mask or pretend to be someone that pretend to be your student or pretend to be a teacher. Last but not least is privacy policies, which we uphold highly. It's such a strong policy, and we want to make sure we protect our students and teachers and faculty and staff. The team's data through Microsoft's ecosystem is encrypted in transit, and it sits in Microsoft Data Center encrypted as well. Microsoft uses industry standard technologies such as TLS, transport layer security, and SRTP, which is also known as secure real-time transport. So those are two very, very important ways of encrypting data between the student devices and teacher devices and Microsoft Data Center. And that data includes all the files, all the meetings, all the content, all the communication. So that's why we decided to go with Microsoft Teams.
Sounds great. I think that can reassure parents to feel safe and know that their information is being protected by the district. Thank you so much, Danny, for answering such important questions, and hopefully that puts some of our families at ease. I'm now very excited to introduce our next guest. We have invited John Moffett from Cyber Education Consulting for an entertaining but very serious presentation about topics like protecting our identities and data, cyberbullying, social media, and so much more. So I hope that you really pay close attention and really enjoy this presentation. John, take it away.
Just real quick, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and switch to John's slides, just so you know.
Thank you very much. That's what I was waiting for. Perfect. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? First, I want to thank everyone for having me here, and I want to thank the Eastlake Educational Foundation and Cox Cable for bringing me out here. Danny, thank you for doing a lot of my job for me. That was awesome, what information you gave us. Just a reminder again, this is the information for Cox Cable's Connect to Compete program. It's an awesome program that ends at the end of the month. So without further ado, I want to really get into my presentation. And a lot of people have been asking me during this pandemic, so what are the kids up to right now? What are they doing? Well, they're all over the place. And we're going to talk about a lot of the major apps that they're using right now. Make sure I'm not muted. Okay, good. Everybody can hear me? Good. So Danny mentioned that the biggest part of working with your kids when it comes to technology is communication. But I know for me as a parent, and I'm sure all of you out there, it's hard to get on the same page when every time you ask a question, they roll their eyes at you. Because I know that's what happens to me. I do this for a living and it happens to me. So just sort of limit the eye rolling and get everybody in the family on the same page when it comes to technology. I recommend everybody in the family have a contract. So every family should have a contract for every child in the home. So what should be on this contract? Here's some generic tips for the contract, okay? Now, I will send you a PDF or a Word document with this contract in it. At the end of this presentation, I'll have my email, and I will send out a copy of this contract in a Word document so you can edit it to fit each kid's own needs. So depending on where they're at and how they're at, which is really cool. But I want to go over some of the key ones that are pretty important, and then I'll follow up with why they're important as we go along. So he mentioned keeping the devices in a central location. Also, no devices should be kept in the bedroom at night, period. All devices should be kept in the central location because just like us, we get less sleep when it's in our room. They will too, so we need to help them. Now, the next question, and this one I know a lot of you have elementary school students, so when I talk about nudity and inappropriate content, you may be thinking, oh, I don't have to worry about, my child's way too young for that. Actually, in recent studies, the average first exposure to pornography is actually 8 years old. That doesn't mean they're searching it out. Maybe somebody sent something or said something, and I'll show you the latest app where that is happening with higher frequency, especially in elementary schools. We'll talk about that. Also talk about, well, what about sexting? What if the two people share images and they're under the age of 18? How do I deal with that? Well, one thing you want to never do is save the image or send it to an administrator. You want to take that device directly to whoever you think is most valuable. In a lot of cases, it's school counselors are the best place to start, and they can sort of gauge where to take it next. And then, of course, I will not use my device for malicious purposes. You know, crank calling, harassing, and there are apps out there that are free that let you change your voice and use this person's phone number to call that person and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And Danny mentioned, like, we need to get to know the apps that these kids are using. Well, the rule should be there is no apps on the phone unless I understand how it works. Now, I know my son rolls his eyes at me, and I just say the same thing every time he gets frustrated. Look, baby, if I don't understand it, you can't use it. So help me help you. Let's figure this out. Does it always go smoothly? No, but I notice a lot of the times he doesn't even know the answers to the questions I ask. And I'm going to show you a list of questions to ask your kids in a little bit to help bridge the gap between what they know and what you know. And then, of course, what are the age requirements for every app and game? He touched on COPPA, which we'll talk about later, which is the Privacy Act protecting children. But, you know, most apps, in fact, all apps, the age is 13. But why did they decide 13? Did Dr. Phil, Dr. Drew, and Dr. Oz all get together, have a powwow, and decide this is the age kids are ready? No, lawyers decided this. It's the COPPA, which protects children's privacy online. Well, I'm not trusting lawyers to raise my kids, and more studies are coming out saying you should push social media and cell phone use farther and farther down. I've been doing this and talking to students and families about internet safety since MySpace, and I have been adamantly telling everybody, postpone social media and cell phone use until they're 16. And I've gotten a lot of pushback, but I'm telling you, with the addictive component, which we'll talk about in a minute, I'm becoming more and more right every day because it's sort of been, I've been up against the mountain. And my son, he will get his first phone, a smartphone, when he has a job and when he needs an alarm in his room to wake up to go to that job. Otherwise, it's not necessary. My son could communicate in a lot of other ways, and I'll show you those ways in a little bit.
Mom or dad or guardian must meet all of your friends and family, all your friends, digital friends in the real world, no exceptions, especially in elementary school. And we're going to talk about some of the apps that kids are adding friends on, many that they don't know in person. And when it's in elementary school, you have to be very careful who's in their digital life. And as they get older, you could expand out their digital friends to people you may not have met. And we'll talk about why that's important a little bit later. But focusing now, if you have an elementary school student, we need to know who their friends are. No question. And I'll show you the apps and how to do that in a minute. And then, of course, we're in COVID and kids are able to get on things even when we're trying to stop them. This is not a new phenomenon. I get emails and phone calls all the time during this pandemic going, I put a filter and I put monitoring on the phone and my kid keeps getting around it. What do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm lost. And I go, well, what did your parents do? And they laugh. What do you mean my parents? We didn't have this stuff when I was a kid. What are you, crazy? No, but I hacked my house. What do you mean? I went out the window as soon as they went to sleep. And then if I got caught, my parents would maybe, I never had to do this, but they could nail the window shut, get in a war over that. Reality of me going out the window or one of my family members going out the window, it can be just as dangerous as what kids are doing today. So how do you monitor? We're going to talk about the best ways to monitor, but when it comes to hacking and they're getting around it, you just have to strictly say, look, I know it's possible. And if you do it, I take the device for this amount of time. And it's in your contract, so there's no arguing or fighting. This is where it is. Kids are supposed to push the boundaries. I know I did when I was a kid. You see that light post sign? Don't go past that light post or you're in trouble. What I do, I walk over right to the edge and I'm like, toot, toot, just to see if they're paying attention. Well, now we have a digital world that we need to pay attention to because everybody on the planet now has two lives. We have our real life and we have a digital life. These are the components to a digital life. The first one is social networking. Now, if you're a parent, when this is overwhelming, we didn't have social networks when you were growing up. Our parents didn't have to worry about this madness. You'd be wrong. Our parents had to deal with a social network. They had to trust us. My social network was the mall. I got dropped off in middle school. They didn't follow me around. I was free to interact with whoever was there. Could I have caused and did a lot of drama? Sure. Did I do it for the same reason kids are wanting to be in their social network today? Absolutely. I was there to see friends. I was there to check out music, there to hang out. That's exactly what kids are doing today. It's just the system and the way they're doing it is different. And we need to pay attention to how this social network is different as far as how it's affecting the brains than ours did. Then, of course, webcams and videos. We'll talk about Twitch, YouTube, and different ways where kids can broadcast their live to anyone or talk to anyone through video chat that you may not be aware of. Then, of course, cell phones. Of course, the number one question I get is, when's the right age to give my kid a cell phone? And I've answered that. When they got a job. They got a job, they got a phone. Now, if you're going to give it to them younger, you really need to be over-involved in what they're doing with it. And this is important because people ask me all the time, why are you so anti-phone? And there's a term that's been floating around for a while now called brain hacking. It's where the apps we love are currently designed to be addictive. And if you haven't had a chance, Netflix just posted a documentary called The Social Dilemma, premiered a couple days ago. I highly encourage you to watch it. It goes in depth talking about how these apps are specifically designed to capture as much of our attention as possible and keep us on the devices and separate us as a country, and it's working. Now, how are some of the ways that they keep us on a device are sort of crazy. Like, for example, I thought that if I liked your post on social media, I liked your Instagram post, that you get the like right away, right? I liked it, you get the like. No, they have an algorithm that decides when you get the like. And it looks at your previous use of the app and says, when we give this person all their likes at the same time, they stay on the app longer. This person stays on longer when we sprinkle them over time. They are not passively trying to keep us on the device. They are inside our head and they're inside our children's head. If you've had trouble getting a device away from a child, and I have, it's because they're in their head and we have to pull them out of it. An analogy I used to always use is like when I was a kid, I watched a movie, a black and white movie with my dad, and there was a doctor in a doctor's office smoking a cigar. It's a boy, he said, right? And I was like, Dad, why is that dude smoking a cigar? Isn't he a doctor? Wouldn't you know that's dangerous? And in the doctor's office? And he goes, different time, son, they didn't know. Well, guess what? We don't have the excuse anymore. We know what they're doing. And we need to take action. Now, Instagram's tried to grow a heart and a conscience didn't really work. And they added a feature, and I haven't seen it on mine yet, but maybe it's on your kids, where you could hide the number of likes you get and the number of followers you have so that you don't feel pressure from other people to get more likes, because the people following you don't see them. But I have not seen this feature anywhere. Then, of course, California has just passed the California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, which allows any customer demand to see every piece of data that a company has on it. Why is this important? Data and data mining is more valuable than the oil industry in the world. It generates more money. So if you've noticed that some of your favorite apps have had updates in the past couple months, probably in and around July, that's because this law went into effect, and if they could just skin it by you and you just accept the terms, they could keep doing what they're doing. How do you make it so they can't sell your data? At the bottom of every website that you love, you'll actually see it now. Do not sell my data. And you could click on that and they're no longer able to do it. It's just one way to see what they're up to. Another way you could see what they're up to is look at you or your child's Instagram account. If you go into the settings, follow these steps, and again, you'll have a video of this later, you could go through it, and you can see where it says access data, and you can see everything they have on you. They're not hiding it, but it could be interesting to see how much they have, because everything you've hashtagged, everything you've done, everything you've tagged is all there. It's a very interesting way to get an idea of how they view you and how you're using the app. Then, of course, what are some solutions to this? This video I just watched on Netflix, they talked about an hour and a half, 2 hours of all the problems, and they only gave minimal solutions during the closing credits. So some of the ones they didn't mention were turn on grayscale mode. Obviously, they mentioned this, turn off all notifications unless it's a real world connection. Do not use your phone as an alarm clock, and do not let your kids use their phone as an alarm clock. The number one excuse from parents whenever kids say they need their phone in the room, it's my alarm clock, or I needed to listen to music to fall asleep. We have to break this habit. We have to get it out of the bedroom. And another way to sort of stop them getting in your head as much, limit the number of followers. Why is this important? I was talking to a high school student. I said, what's the hardest part about being a high school student right now? And I said, living your life online. You know how hard it is to live your life on stage? They said, living your life online is like living your life on stage. Everybody's looking at you. Everybody's scrutinizing you. You have parents telling you, be careful what you post. It's going to be out there forever. And it's like, no, duh, I'm on stage 24/7. I got anxiety through the roof. Limit their audience as long as possible. Show them that the amount doesn't matter. It's who it is that's looking at what breakfast they ate. And then, of course, turn the tagging feature off. That's just another tool to suck you in. No one should have the tagging feature on if you really want to help limit this happening. And then track how much you're on the apps. There's different apps that will allow you to look at that, which we'll look at later. And then, of course, we're going to look at how do you talk to your kids about this? Well, I do this presentation and I miss talking to students. It's hard to talk to students right now with all this, but I usually talk to about 250,000 students a year before COVID. Right now, it's really challenging, but these are some questions I would ask students because I want to know how it's affecting them. So what's your favorite part of your digital life? The number one answer I get from most kids is, I'm able to connect with my friends. I'm able to talk. What's the worst part? I can't get away from it. The phone beeps late at night. I don't know how to say no. And then, of course, one I've been asking a lot lately in my own family and a lot of other people is, do you have any anxiety before, during, or after using it? Do you have anxiety with everything that's going on? Is there anything you're seeing people post that's making you more anxious? Because there's a lot out there that's, look, media isn't driven by puppy dogs and rainbows. It's driven by the worst. And we're at a time where we're all just sitting around waiting, and it's creating a higher level of anxiety, not only in us adults, but in the kids too. And then ask questions like, what would happen if we as a family didn't focus on our digital life for 1 day, 1 hour, 1 week? I know in our family that's a challenge, and I'm sure it is for some of you as well. And then how do we create a balance between our real life and our digital life in a time when we're not able to connect in the real world like we want to? This time has taught me more than anything. I miss getting together with people. Before COVID, I'd be like, oh man, we gotta go there again. Now I'm like, when do we get to go? I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. Then of course, the apps, we're going to talk about all the different apps that you should be paying attention to right now. File sharing, where do you get your music and movies? Now that we're at home, are you paying for them like Netflix, Hulu, etc.? Or are you getting them for free? Because there's plenty of apps that allow you to download everything for free. You could sideload them, you could do a lot of different things. Whether it's you or your children doing this, this affects your security at an unknown level. if you're doing this, I guarantee you have malware and viruses in your device right now. You cannot go to these sites and not have it happen. Then, of course, that's connected to personal finance. When I talk to kids, kids always ask me, why do you put personal finance in here? I'm in middle school. I'm in elementary school. I said, because anything you do for technology, your parents are legally responsible for, so they sort of need to know what's going on. Then, of course, my favorite section of all is video games. Now, when it comes to video games, this was my childhood. It was a nice time. My daddy had it easy, right? He knew what game I was playing because it was on the only TV in the house, and he knew who I was playing with because they had to be on the floor next to me. Now, when my son plays and your kids play, they play the whole world. Well, let's see how they're playing and who they're playing. And one thing I would encourage you to do before you go any further is every child, every person that plays online has a unique gamer tag or a digital ID, the username. I encourage you to Google all of their usernames to see what comes back, because there are people that are playing them that are asking these questions already. And it's very important to know the answer. Now, since a lot of you have elementary school age students, the number one app that I'm hearing a lot about right now is Roblox. Now, Roblox is, a lot of parents say, yeah, my kid's not allowed to have social media, they're too young, there's no way, but I let them have Roblox. Well, Roblox is a social network in a lot of ways. It has friends, it has followers, it has all of those things. And it also has privacy settings. So if we look into the privacy settings, one thing you want to look at when it comes to your kids and what they're doing is who could message me, who could chat with me. All of those kind of questions are vitally important that you know the answer to. So you either put it at friends or no one. Now, if it's set to friends, you need to know who all their friends are. Now, somebody asked, should I just set it to no one? I don't want my elementary school kid just talking to strangers. There are some games in Roblox where you have to play strangers and sometimes even talk. Now, if you're not comfortable with them doing that, you could turn it off to no one. Now, I'm going through this rather quickly because I have a lot of information to get to. So I encourage you to either email me for a PDF so you can go through it slowly with your kids, or check out this video over the next 30 days. Then, of course, other settings, who can invite you to a private server? It should only be friends, but only the friends that you've met. So, for example, my son only has 7 people on there. They're all people I know because I need to know and you need to know who they're connected with. Then, of course, when it comes to seeing who their friends are, if you just click on the friends, it'll show you all of them, and you'll see friends, you'll see following, you'll see followers, everything you see on any other social network. So if you want to remove somebody, you click on them, and then it gives you the option to unfriend. You can also, just like any other social network, and people ask me all the time, what are some things I should have my kid be aware of and I be aware of before they're even allowed to use a social network? With every single social network, you should know how to report abuse at minimum. That way you're not playing a victim, you're actually being proactive when it comes to it. Now, Roblox has way less of this, even though it still happens, it has way less, but this is a process to report it. Just click on that report button, and then it asks you what it was for. Now, I had one little kid, I felt so bad for him. He came up to me and he said, so I got kicked out and I got banned and I didn't do anything wrong. And I was like, you didn't do anything wrong, son? He said, no. And I go, what happened? You didn't say anything bad or anything? You weren't mean? No. I go, what kind of questions did you ask people? What did you talk about? Well, I asked them what their name was and where they lived. I was trying to be nice. Like, they will actually ban you for that kind of stuff. You're not even allowed to ask people where they live, where they're from. Now, are there workarounds or they'll use memes and stuff? Sure. But in general, you're not allowed to. So keep that in mind. These are some of the things and all the different ways in which you can report. Then, of course, Roblox Premium, because how do they make money if there's no ads? Well, you could play the basic game. That's great. But if you have a young kid, they probably ask you for premium at one point or ask for Robux so they could buy it. Now, what Robux does, it allows you, once you create a premium membership, it allows you to buy and make your avatars really cool, create and chat when you couldn't before, but it also allows you to do something called trading. So you're able to trade your digital goods with another person. So I think back to when I was a kid, we had something similar. It was called garbage pail kids or basketball cards, and I would trade them with my friends. I'll trade you one of those for one of these. Now, sometimes people got ripped off. That could happen here too. So talk to your older kids about not taking advantage of younger kids, because everyone's really intermingled in a way that doesn't happen when I was a kid, where in middle school, one kid got over on another kid. Well, at least they're around the same age. Here, an older kid could take advantage of a younger kid and wouldn't necessarily be able to figure it out as well. And of course, the next app, and probably the one that's caused the most drama, and I've gotten the most emails and phone calls from during this whole pandemic, and that's a Discord. Discord is a chat app that was originally designed for gamers to chat on different platforms. So say I have a PlayStation, you have an Xbox. We're able to use Discord and communicate even though we're on different platforms. It works on PC, phone, every single platform out there. It allows you to create a server, which is like a community, and you invite people into your community, and you can either have it be private by invite only, or you can make it open where anybody that knows about it can find it. It's not like it's just going to be easy to search. You have to be invited or know about it, but they're out there. Where did these kids in elementary school hear about it? Their favorite YouTuber has a Discord. Hey guys, follow me on Discord. I'm going to be giving out free merch, or I'm going to be doing this at this time. Come check me out. It's a way for people to connect in large groups or small groups. They'll also have Discord communities for all different things. So let's look at what you could do. So this is the standard Discord direct messaging, which means I'm sending my friend a direct message that's only going to that person and not to the whole group. What troubled me and the feedback I've gotten from parents and the scare stories I've heard from some parents is they've looked through some of the chats they're having with people, and some of them are pretty inappropriate. I know in my house, we've been following what Danny said for a long time, and that is, hey, son, you're not going to get in any trouble. If something bad happens on any app, as long as you come tell us, everything's okay. So he was on Discord, and somebody posted an inappropriate image. Like, boom. And he came running in and saying, Dad, somebody posted in something inappropriate. I was like, oh, let me go take a look. By the time I got in the room, it had already been removed. The person that did it was banned, and the image was removed. And that's because it had a good moderator, which we'll talk about in a minute. But when it comes to the Discord direct messaging and chat, not only can you chat, like type, you could phone call, which you cannot monitor. You could video chat, which you cannot monitor. There is no app that'll let you monitor that. So first off, you need to know that's possible. And yes, young as elementary school are on this. And you have to look at how they're using this app. I look through my son, scroll through his chats all the time, and it reminds me when I was in 6th grade and the silly stuff I talked about. He was talking about Shactus the other day and a bunch of other stuff. And of course, Discord friends. You want to know who their friends are, but this is where it gets interesting, and my son educated me, and I just never really thought about it that way. At first, I was like, I need to meet every single person. I don't care. He's like, Dad, I got a question. Did you ever play basketball at the park with your friends? I say, yeah. Did their friends bring friends sometimes? Yeah. Did your parents make you meet everybody you were playing with? No. Well, I can't have you meet everybody I'm playing with, but anybody I'm interacting with regularly, you should know who they are. So we have a plan. I'm not going to go after his friends of friends unless they're soliciting or trying to do something appropriate and he lets me know. But this is where it gets interesting. The friends of friends on all these different apps and applications we can't control. We've got to look at who their friends are. And if we need to remove a friend, you simply click on the person and click remove friend. Now, if they're in elementary school, you need to meet every single one in person, friend to friend, whatever. Get to know them. As they get older and they're expanding out their nest, they're going to get to know more and more people. And as you establish that relationship where they're not afraid it's going to get taken away, the better off it's going to be. This is the privacy feature built in for direct messaging. So if you go into privacy and safety in the chat app, one of the options is keep me safe. What this does is it scans all direct messages for explicit content. Now, when my son saw the inappropriate image, it was in a group chat where everybody can see it. He didn't have control over that. The moderator has control over that. This allows him any direct messages to be scanned for inappropriate or explicit content. Is it perfect? No. But at least it's a minimum you should have on their account. Then, of course, we got to look at servers. If you look at the right over here, the breakdown of this right here is the servers. The first one is their direct messaging. These are servers that they could be on. They could be in as many as they want or as few as they want. When you click on a server, this particular one is a very basic generic one where he just has it with a couple of his friends where they get together to see who's available to play what game. So you'll see this one, they're just strictly talking about, hey, we're going to play Fall Guys. Are we going to do this? And they could be open or closed and have as few or as many members as possible. What you want to look for as a parent is, do they have rules? And what are the rules? So this server is much more intense. This is a gaming server. And a lot of kids get recruited to these gaming servers by older kids in high school to sort of build it up. Because the way Discord works is there's no advertisements. They make money from people sponsoring different posts or doing different things. It's still in its infancy when it comes to that. First question you want to ask is, what is the purpose of the server? Like this one is a gaming server. Some are just to hang out. They could literally be about anything. What kind of conversations are happening? So click through the conversation and see what they're talking about. Here's my favorite one. Speaking of school, I'm not available right now. I'm doing school. Well, he's able to be involved in this conversation and do school at the same time because he probably has it on a computer sitting right in front of his parents. And they don't even know that he's communicating outside of what the school's doing. So even if your kid doesn't have a phone, if they have this app, they're able to do everything a phone does. And since we're all stuck at home, that's what they're doing. If it's a gaming channel, do they have a role in the channel? What do I mean by that? There's different roles within it. Like they get pretty organized. Like some gaming servers will have it so they have like the moderator, and the moderator comes up with the rules and enforces them. They're the ones that created the server, and they have a lot more responsibility. Then they have the recruiters, the creative players, the graphic designers, the video editors. They get sort of business-like with it. And I would encourage to ask your kid if they have a role, what role is it? And if it is moderator, that's a lot of responsibility to take on because I'm not saying that you're responsible for what other people post, but it's an awful lot to take on. So in this particular one that he's in, I got lucky. He found a community that's good. And people ask me all the time, well, how do I know if a community is good or bad? You can't, so you get in it and experience it. This one of the simple ways you can tell is, do they have rules? And if they have rules, like this one does, do they enforce it? In this particular one, they do enforce the rules. The person is banned as soon as they do something inappropriate. That's a good thing. And what's interesting about this particular server is I'm impressed. It's run by a 16-year-old kid at some high school. Now, I would want to talk to that 16-year-old kid about all the additional responsibility this person's taking on. And I asked my son about it. So how does this kid deal with all this extra responsibility of trying to monitor this and get the constant notifications that everybody's doing? He goes, oh, they split moderator duties between more than one person. Okay, well, that's cool. They're doing something I never even would have thought of. That's awesome. But we do need to know what they're doing and how our kids are using it. Then, of course, self-promo. A big part of Discord is getting people to go to your channel wherever you're at. So, hey, man, come check out my Fortnite channel on YouTube or check out my Twitch. And they post links to their gameplay and trying to get people to come to them. And some sites like this will have a section designed just for self-promo. So you want to see what your friends are up to or what they're promoting, you click on it and you can watch their videos live, in some cases here, or post it after the fact. And of course, the server moderation. The server moderator is one of the most important jobs when it comes to Discord. They set the rules, they decide how everything's monitored and how it's moderated. So they have the ability to do an auto mod where it automatically filters out content, but obviously that's not perfect. So they have to do additional steps on top of it. But if your child is moderating a Discord account, first off, how many people are in it? If it's just 4 people and you've met all of them, you're probably gonna be okay. But let your kid know that that's a lot of responsibility, that if somebody said something threatened to hurt someone else, threatened to shoot somebody, you're not responsible, but people would ask you why you didn't tell anybody, because you are the moderator. So as long as they're prepared to take on that responsibility, it should be limited to a small group. In elementary school, it shouldn't exist. I don't even recommend it for middle. But in the pandemic, sometimes kids need to use these kind of tools just to connect in general. So what I encourage you to do is be as involved as possible. Because on the plus side, they don't have the ads, they don't have some of those sucking features of social media, but they do have a lot of mentions and other notifications to suck people in to get them on it. So if your child has Discord, turn the notifications off for sure. If you don't want them to have it, you're like, whoa, my kid's in elementary school, I didn't even know about this. It's done, it's out. This is a process in which to remove it. Then of course, TikTok. TikTok's in the news big time right now. Now, TikTok to me is like YouTube for people with short attention spans. You scroll through videos and they're very quick. They just keep moving. They get you scrolling up and they keep going. So I decided to do a TikTok experiment and see if I could find TikTok accounts. I'm in northern San Diego. You're down there in Chula Vista. I want to see if I could find any accounts from kids down in the Chula Vista area. So the first thing I did is I went to Instagram. And Instagram has a feature where you could search by geolocation, because people will geotag their photos. So I put in Chula Vista Elementary School just to see what's going on around that school, and it shows me all the posts. Once I found one student or parent that posted, I then looked through their social media, and one of them actually gave me their TikTok username. Once I got the TikTok username, I plugged it in, and once I looked through the followers, I found several kids at the school pretty quickly. And this is something you want to be aware of when it comes to your social media, not linking them together. Don't link Instagram with Snapchat. Try to keep them separate as much as possible, especially when you're trying to hide your location. Then, of course, TikTok has something called TikTok Live, where you can live stream from within the app to all your followers of the whole world if you want. What is big on TikTok is making money, just like any other app. TikTok has a feature where people could buy virtual money or coins or gifts and give them to you, and you could cash them out for real money. That's in there. And would I recommend an elementary school kid having this and turning on? No. But see, like Danny said before, elementary school kids aren't technically supposed to be on this because you're supposed to be 13, so they lied about their age. And when I talk to elementary school students, they're so cute. And I do presentations to them, I'll ask, who here has a TikTok account? Who lied about their age and said they were 100? And you hear giggles. And who lied and said they were, I said I was 21. I said, well, the joke's on you because they treat people over the age of 18 differently than they treat people under the age of 18. So you want to make sure your kid is using the right age or as close to it as possible, because this feature is only available if you're over the age of 18. Then, of course, TikTok privacy. Under privacy and safety in the settings at the very bottom, like right down here, you'll see, first off, you'll see right here, it says make your account private. If your account is public, by default, there is another feature that is turned on that you may not be aware of. It's called allow your videos to be downloaded. This is creepy. It really creeps me out when I see an elementary school kid's TikTok account public, like just a regular little kid. There are people that collect these videos and trade them on the darker side of the web because they're using them in a totally different way than your kid is. I don't think any kid should not be allowed to dance and have fun on TikTok, but you probably should set it to private. Just the same, just lock it down, make sure only you can see it. And also under the allow videos to be downloaded, you'll see who could send you direct messages, who could duet with you. All this should be set to my friends and my friends only, especially in elementary school. In middle and high school, you could discuss how you want to do it, but in elementary, you got to know who these people are. It's really important. Then, of course, when it comes to younger kids, there's restricted content mode where you might sit down on TikTok and like heard F-bombs and people just cursing and the music can get crazy. Well, you could turn on restricted mode, which will try to filter some of that out. And this is the process in which to do that. One thing I will tell you that you want to set a password that they're not going to guess. So make sure they don't put this feature on and you do it separately. Because I've had parents go, how did my kid get on it? And I'm like, well, who set the password? I did. You can also do this for screen time management as well, where you control how much screen time the child gets within the app. But again, you have to set the password, not them. Now, deleting TikTok. Now, TikTok used to be called Musical.ly, and then it was bought by ByteDance and rebranded. And they made it, during that process, they made it harder to delete your account. Before, all you need to do is push a button, delete, and it would be gone. Now you have to put in a real phone number, verify that it's real with them sending you a code. Then this link will appear. You click on the link, they send you another code, and you're able to delete it. So it is a process. In order to remove your personal information, you actually have to give them more, which is ironic. Now, what if you're like, oh, my kid doesn't have TikTok, I don't have to worry about this. But if they have an older cousin or a BFF from school that has TikTok, they could have it too. Because you can have more than one TikTok account in the single app. So how do you find multiple TikTok accounts on your child's phone? You simply open the app, click on the username, and if more than one username appears, that means they have more than one account. But what if it's my child and their best friend has it, but my kid doesn't? When the best friend comes over, asks to look at their TikTok, make fun out of it. Hey, do you have more than one account? How does that work? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Then, of course, YouTube. YouTube, a lot of kids want to be YouTube stars. They see kids making money and they want to be famous. Well, YouTube just made it much harder in the last year. You used to need 10,000 views to start making money. You now need 4,000 watch hours in the previous 12 months and at least 1,000 subscribers just to be reviewed. So they've made it harder. So it makes it harder for the little channels to make any money. So some tips, be careful not to post personal information. The one thing, and the way I found kids at the schools, is they'll put their YouTube channel in a link in their Instagram, and I'll click on it, it'll take me to their videos. Most of the videos are based in gaming. Make sure they're not giving away personal information. Most of the gaming videos don't. The ones I see are where kids are skating or doing something outside. I've caught kids driving past their house in the parking lot, or driving past the driveway of their house and the license plate to the cars are there. Make sure that's not being shown. If they're creating content, what is their message? Who's their target audience? Have they done focus groups? If they're streaming, that means live streaming, because YouTube allows you to live stream. Who are they live streaming to? And not that they can figure that out. Are they live streaming with you present? Because you should be present when a young kid is live streaming, because they're broadcasting to the whole world. And then, of course, when they're consuming content, what is the video selling? Why is this important? YouTube was fined by the FTC $170 million for targeting ads to children. They demonetized a lot of channels, and now it's even harder when you're creating content for kids to fall into that category to be able to make money. Now, here's some questions you're gonna ask to bridge the gap between what they know and what you know about the apps. Notice the first question isn't, why do you need it? Because there's no good answer for that. Better question is, and I ask this to my son all the time, what do you use it for? Because I'm dumb too. Is it a video game, a social network, or a way to do math? How does it work? Believe it or not, when I ask my kid this, most of the time he doesn't know the answer to all the questions. So we have to Google it together. What does it have access to? Who's on it can see it? All these questions you're going to go to your kids. Now, I mentioned Instagram and how I found accounts from any given area. I simply did a search of a particular school, and you could search any school or any area, and it'll show you all the geotag pictures taken in that area that were public. Then you could click on them and see them, and once you see one, like if I see this one, and I know this isn't a student, I wanted to make sure not to use one, this is a parent, but if I click on it and it was a student, what are the odds that the people that liked it were also students? When you like something, especially when you're public, you're lowering your level of privacy tenfold. Because you may not have a ton of personal information on your page, but if you like something that did, you're giving away information you probably should. Then, of course, what I always instruct parents and kids to do is never use your real name as your username, unless it's John Smith or something really basic. And one thing I hate to say, I see it a lot in middle school, and that is in their About Me section, they put a lot of bad language or inappropriate content. And what that tells me as somebody looking them up, that mommy and daddy are not paying attention to them at all in the digital world. In the real world, they might, but in the digital world, this kid has free reign. That makes them a target. And being that close to the border, we're all that close, that's not a good idea. Human trafficking is higher here than other parts of the state. We have to pay attention to everything they're doing because other people are. Then, of course, there's professional profiles and personal profiles on Instagram. What I've noticed is some kids think it's fun to create a professional profile, and the difference between a professional and a personal is a professional allows you to add a phone number you could be contacted at and an email. So where it says contact, that's how you know they have a professional page. They shouldn't have one unless that contact information is you. The only time you have a professional page is when they get to high school. When they start using social media in high school, whatever that is, they create two profiles, one personal, one professional. The personal one has friends and family, it's locked down, nobody else, right? The professional one has no friends or family on it, only extracurricular activities, volunteer services. If they're artists, that's where they put their art. Whatever their talent is, that's where they put it. They set it to private from 9th to 12th grade, adding to it throughout their high school experience. Then when they graduate high school, they unleash it on the world. Boom, hey everybody, this is me. That way when they put that username on an application, they're not afraid to have people look it up because it's a positive image of them. They understand how this stuff works. And of course, for elementary, I see this a lot, online quizzes. Ask your kids if they've taken online quizzes. Now, a lot of them have the opportunity, what they offer you is an ability to put a link in your About Me section, where when people click on the link, they could take a survey about you. I take surveys of kids all the time, and my favorite thing is whenever I take a survey of a kid, like when is my birthday? Whatever I guess, whether I'm right or wrong, it tells me the right answer. it's like giving away personal information for no reason. So talk to your kids about online quizzes and make sure they're not doing it. They go by a lot of different names. Bestify, Buddy Meter, there's a whole bunch of them. Make sure they're not doing it. It's really only popular in elementary school, really. Then, of course, on a serious note, he mentioned anxiety, suicide, and depression. This was a screenshot taken from a middle school, and I had to contact the middle school that I was presenting at with this, and it indeed was a student. And what upset administration so much is that it had 28 likes. Not one kid told an administrator or a parent what they had seen. Now they brought the kids in and talked to them because they were all the likes were right there. And by the way, when you're saving evidence of this or any kind of harassment or anything else, screenshot the inappropriate content, screenshot anybody that's commented it, and screenshot anybody that liked it, and then take that to administration so it's easier for them to get to the bottom. In this particular case, all these kids that liked it, not one of them had malicious intent. Most of the answers were, I thought he was joking. I just liked it because I want to get likes back. And if you look at the comments, they're like, take it off, but no one reported it. And that's the separation where technology separates us. And we need to talk to our kids about this and reinforce it. No, when you see stuff like this, baby, you can't just ignore it. You got to talk to us. And then, of course, when it comes to likes, this is a little trick I love to tell parents because you get to know your kid really quickly on social media this way. So especially in middle school and elementary and even high school. So if you go into their device that they're using and you go into Instagram and you follow these steps, it'll show you every post they've ever liked all in one place. If everything they liked is rainbows and kittens and unicorns, sweet. If it's inappropriate content, marijuana talk, whatever else, you're going to see that too. You're going to get a good idea of exactly how they're using it, which is awesome. Bonus. Then, of course, these are the basic privacy settings your kids should have your account set to private. And then, of course, comment settings. This, you can't control a comment somebody leaves on your profile, but you can control and filter out inappropriate content. It isn't perfect, but it should be turned on. You can even block comments from an individual where they're still able to follow you, but you're blocking their comments. I recommend doing that if you have someone that's like the kid's friend, but they're apt to post something that's inappropriate. The only person who'll see it is them, which is kind of nice. Then, of course, removing a follower. Again, when it comes to younger age, you meet every single person on there. If you haven't met them, you remove them. And then, of course, deactivating. Deactivating and deleting are two different things. If you want to deactivate, you go to Instagram.com, you log in. They're going to, once you've logged in, you're going to see here, you're going to see this page here and get the option to disable and click submit. Make sure that, and this goes for all social media, never use a school ID and a school email to create any personal account. I have so many high school and college students tell me, oh man, I made an account when I was in elementary school or middle school with a school ID and I can't get on it and I can't get rid of it because I don't have access to that email anymore, right? So you want to make sure they're not using a school email, they're using an email you have the username and password to, okay? Now, what if you don't want to disable it? Because that means the information's still sitting out there. So if you click the submit button after filling all this in, it's just to disable it so the information's still sitting out there. If you want to delete it for good, you have to go here to this long website and ask to have it personally delete it. And they're going to beg you not to leave like a bad breakup. Please, baby, what do we do wrong? How can we make it better? Now, how do we, with all this information, how do we monitor what they're doing? Whoa, this is insane. There's so much going on. First off, best tool of all time is going through the devices with them. Device in hand, going through with them. Hey, what is this? How does this work? Hey, this is pretty cool. What does this do? And remember, you have the passwords to everything. Little note, if you ever going through your child's device and you click on an app and it asks for a separate password when you're already on the device, that's a red flag. There's something going on in that app. And there are decoy apps where like, there's one called Private Photo Vault. When you click on it, it asks for a password. You put in the password. It takes you to an album of them volunteering at the soup kitchen. But if they put in a different password, it takes them to other folders that you're not able to see. It's like a decoy password. So once again, we constantly, somebody asks me, well, how am I supposed to keep up with all this? Starting today, get to know every app on your child's devices, take them all off and add them as you get to know them. That's your best bet in getting to understand this because we don't want to cut them off completely and alienate them. We just want to make sure we understand how they work. Then of course, if you have Apple, you can have family share. And I got a lot of emails recently about this where I have Apple family share, my kid's still able to get around the filters. How are they able to get around the filters? If your child is on the same Apple ID as you, then they could get around the filters. If you create a family share account where you're the head moderator and they have a separate Apple ID that reports to you, you know every site they go to, they got to get permission from you to download the app. That makes it harder for them to do it. They are one Google search away from getting around filters, but let's look at monitoring and filtering tools that are out there that work pretty well. First off, there's Unglue. This works for laptops and cell phones. It allows you to create custom profiles for each kid and pause and control each individual child. The feedback I've gotten on this one is relatively easy to use, but not perfect. None of them are. And then of course there's RPAC, which works similarly, but none of them can control what's on Snapchat or anything that disappears. Any web video, webcam or anything like that, they're not going to capture that. That's going to be gone. So you have to decide how you want to deal with that. If you want them to have access to it at all, they can't control that. Then of course there's Circle by Disney. What Circle by Disney does is it controls the Wi-Fi in your house and the Wi-Fi only. So this little box right here plugs into the wall. It becomes a go-between between the Wi-Fi in your house and all the devices, okay? It allows you to create those separate accounts for each kid, pause it, but it only works for the Wi-Fi. I have tested this out and it works pretty well. Is there a go-around? Yes, a kid could go search, how do I get around filters? How do I get around Circle? And they'll be able to do it, but that's where you have to take the device away if they do that. Now, with Circle by Disney, the one thing that made me laugh, one of my friends asked, well, yeah, if I was a kid, I would just unplug it. And I was like, that's a good point. Well, if you unplug it, there's a battery that sends you a message, hey, I've been unplugged. You better plug me back in. So there is a way to keep around that. And the price has gone down from $129 to less than that now. And there is, for this one, no monthly fee unless you get the coverage for cell phones as well. Then of course, how do they get around filters? So the filter is filtering out the address right here. So there's something called a proxy, which allows them to do, it creates a new search bar that's not looked at by here. It's like a way around. And there's new ones coming up all the time. And so really you just have to talk to your kids and go, I know this is possible. We're not doing this in our house. Now, this is something that those of you with older kids, I would really pay close attention to and how they get around everything on you. They're called fake app stores. There's Tutu, there's BShare, there's 9app, AppEven. All of these app stores are sideloaded, which means, first off, they don't cost anything. So you go to their website, you sideload them, so they're not going to the App Store. So if you're watching what they do at the App Store or Google Play, it doesn't even show up there. You sideload this, and it's a complete app store, but everything is free. None of them are legit or safe. I guarantee if your kids have downloaded something like this, there's malware and viruses somewhere, because you can't go to this and not expect something. A lot of these are Chinese owned, and we are in a cyber war, whether we want to admit it or not, and they are collecting and using this against us. So I'm telling you, if your kids are using any of these for just basic cybersecurity purposes, get them off it, not just the fact that they're trying to get around you. Now, I went through a lot of websites and apps today, and I didn't have time to go through all of them and how to remove yourself from them. But if you go to a www.accountkiller.com and you search for whatever app that you want to get rid of, it'll show you step-by-step how to do it. It will not do it for you. It's not like a magic box where it'll just take it off, but it will show you step-by-step how to remove anything you want to. So what do we do next? We got to get to know the apps on our children's devices. We got to take the devices out of the bedroom, period. We got to get to know the followers and friends and the social media and video games in the real world whenever possible. We got to set up a contract to get everybody in the family on the same page, because that's the only way we can get through this. If everybody's not on the same page, we're in trouble. Do not demonize the child or the technology for things they bring you. This could be very difficult. I know it was for me when my son brought me something. I was like, oh man, no, I'm sorry to do that. And we had to process it and talk about it and decide how you're going to monitor what they do online. And again, the best monitoring tool I've ever found is called Pause. Looking at the device, step by step, boom. What I noticed, a parent told me she had a 5-second rule. I go, what's the 5-second rule? I like food. Is that when you drop something on the floor? She said, nah, the device is in my hand in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go through it together. Parents, we do not go through the device or put monitoring software on the device without them knowing. You could do that, but if they find it, you just lost trust forever. So you want to say, hey, I'm putting this stuff on there to protect you. I want you to have a built-in excuse from peer pressure. Look, man, I wouldn't post that. My mom was like the NSA. She sees everything, dude. She's crazy. Fine. Let you be the bad guy. Let them be the good guy. That's our job. And then create unstructured time for our children. We pack things so full of sometimes that, and when I say unstructured, I don't mean online. I mean out in the real world. And it gets harder and harder. And I know today my son had to have unstructured time, and he sat there staring at me work. And he said he was having fun doing it. Wow. Whatever we need to do to get them off their devices, and that includes us too, because they watch what we do. I want to leave you with this. If you would like a copy of this presentation in a PDF and like a copy of the contract in a Word document that you can edit, just email me at the email right here, and I'll be happy to send it out. I want to thank Cox and the Eastlake Education Foundation for having me out here today. I had a lot of fun, and I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has, because I went through a lot of information, and there's stuff I didn't cover that I can include in my PDF about the app called Twitch. Twitch is a social, is a way to live stream your gameplay to the whole world, and it has a lot of features that you may not be aware of. And talk to your kids and ask them if they know about Twitch, and I'll be happy to send you information about that as well. I again thank everybody for their time and allowing me to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was outstanding. So much great information that you shared with us tonight. Really wonderful. Just fantastic job. I want to thank Danny as well. I want to thank Adriana for their participation tonight. Just a world of great information for parents to go through. And I know it's a lot. And I know that sometimes that can be overwhelming, but take it piece by piece. Pick up a couple things today that you want to institute in your family's household. And let's keep our kids safe. That's always our goal. We want to encourage you to look for another Eastlake Educational Foundation session in the near future. And we want to encourage you to reach out to John to get his PDF, to get that contract if you'd like. We really want to thank you, but we won't be taking questions at this time. It wasn't kind of the plan, but we will encourage people to reach out to you.
Please email me.
We'll make sure we get people's information out there. But again, we want to thank you all for coming tonight. Great job. Have a great evening.
Hey, everybody. Goodbye.